3.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Idiomatic Top 3.
With Nicholas, I am the gaming correspondent for Idiomatic.
And I am Dimitri, editor-in-chief of Idiomatic and movie critic. And today we're going to talk about a topic that you, Nick, chose. And I'll let you introduce it, actually.
Well, say for example you're watching a show and you really, really like it and you think this is the greatest thing ever, and the ending is really, really disappointing.
Before we start, I just want to talk a little bit about the importance of endings, just to sort of situate ourselves, because I find the ending of a movie or a book or whatever is just so important because it leaves you with your last impression.
Yes.
So that a good movie with a bad ending, most of the time people will just remember that it's bad, even though, 90% of it was pretty good. It's just sort of dropped the ball when it came to the payoff.
Yeah, exactly. The ending is the payoff. So if the payoff's bad, you feel kind of cheated. And it's like, okay, the rest was good, but, all of this for that, like you follow a hero for the whole time and then the ending, he dies a really stupid way and the ending finishes without him. You're like, what the hell? Why did I get attached to this character for nothing? He's not there anymore. You get really, really annoyed, know. So the ending is, to me, quite important. The ending also sometimes is the surprise for me. I sometimes refuse to watch movies when I know the ending because it's a big part of it for me. I haven't watched the Planet of the Apes for that reason because I know the ending. It's not a shock for me anymore. If I had known the ending of Soylent Green before watching it, probably would not have watched the movie. The ending is a big part of it too. So to me, especially endings are very important. And you ruin the ending for me, I'm not even gonna watch it. So imagine if I take time to watch a whole series and then the ending sucks, I'm going to be very angry.
No, I agree that. I had a similar experience, not with one of the great classics, but with a direct-to-video cartoon movie called Batman: Mystery of the Batwoman, which I bought on Amazon and made the mistake of just sort of glancing at the comments, reviews.
Oh, God.
And the first one said, "Oh my God, I never would have guessed that Batwoman is..." Like, really, dude? Really? And it's not like you're doing it on the IMDb page or in a message form. You're doing it on the page where people are going to buy the product. Like, what's wrong with you?
That's horrible.
Having said that, what is it that makes it rewatchable, though? Like, I've seen The Sixth Sense. I loved it. I was surprised at the end. I only figured it out 5 seconds before they revealed it, which to me counts as not having figured it out before the movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yet, I can still rewatch The Sixth Sense and enjoy it.
Maybe because it brings you back to the first time you saw it, and every time you watch the movie, you're kind of trying to figure out, could I have figured it out, or, what in the movie hit it so well for me. And, you still go back again to the feeling that you had, the big reveal. I was like, yeah, that was awesome. I remember watching this in the movie, in the theaters, and it was great. I think that's why we like rewatching those.
Because it's sort of like Die Hard, you know what I mean? Of course, McClane's going to win the day, because I know there's a Die Hard 2, first of all, and second, because it's an action movie. Since when does the hero lose? And yet I can still watch it and enjoy it, or even Apollo 13. It's sort of like it's based on history. I know what happens, and yet I could still watch it with a sense of suspense. And I'm wondering if it's not more a case of if it doesn't matter if you know what's going to happen, so as long as you don't know how it's going to happen, or as long as the movie's not built in a way that they're trying to surprise you,
I guess, yeah. Yeah, like you said, Apollo 13, they're back, you come back to Earth, safely, spoiler alert. But it's really how they managed it that was really interesting. All the engineers at NASA trying to figure out the problem, that was really the fun part that, I didn't know much about. That was really interesting. Of course, they're going to come back to Earth. The part I hated about the movie, and when they tried to build the suspense that they're trying to call them when they're re-entering the atmosphere, and, can you hear me? Can you hear us? It's like, yeah, of course they can hear. They're alive. We know they're alive.
Yeah.
That was a little ridiculous for me. They're back in the atmosphere. Job done. Congratulations, guys. Movie's over. You could have just stopped right there.
I do think it's the how thing. So that the first time I'm watching Sixth Sense, it's the what, and then the ending comes, and you're like, what the hell? Ooh da da. And then the second time and third and fourth time, it's the how. I know I was fooled, I remember being fooled, like you said.
Yeah.
But now I'm paying attention to how they did it. And so that's still a sort of an entertaining surprise thing.
Yeah.
Because once I start knowing a movie by heart, I stop watching it.
Sometimes I still watch it nonetheless, and I recite the lines at the same time. It's fun.
Yes, I remember waiting in line for movies with you, where there was a TV shop right next to the movie theater line, and they were playing The Simpsons. And of course it's on mute. And you would watch the display and start saying all the lines of the characters.
I was trying to entertain you guys. Maybe you hadn't seen the episode, you know.
Anyway, we're getting a little bit off topic. Might as well get into the top threes right away. So we're going to start with good movie, bad ending. All right, so your number 3 pick for good movie, bad ending, Nick?
It's not just necessarily a movie. It's a whole trilogy.
Oh.
The Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Ah.
Really enjoyed the first movie. I think they made great changes to make it a fluid, nice movie. And it worked perfectly fine. Second movie I liked as well. The Battles of Helm's Deep was like very good. A good ending to that movie. I really enjoyed it. And then came the third one, which just seemed like a giant video game to me. It was extremely boring. It was just a big battle scene followed by another big battle scene. And
it's a 3-hour double battle scene is what it is.
Exactly. And then you have 12 endings. All of them unnecessary. I was in the movie theater and it ends, you kind of start getting up. I was like, no, it keeps going. And then there's another ending, you start getting up. Oh, it keeps going. I was so ready to get out of that theater because I had completely lost interest in it. And I think they completely ruined the whole trilogy for me. I can't watch it because I know I have to end with, Return of the Kings, that it's a completely unwatchable mess. Normally a movie is like a setup, especially movies like that. You have setups to a big action scene. To this, it seems like it's big action scenes to a setup of an end. It's just weird to me. It doesn't work.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think you're spot on when you mentioned that it's 12 endings. That's my biggest problem with the ending of that trilogy, is that Peter Jackson decided that, like, well, the extended edition sold pretty well, so clearly I don't have to edit myself. Just shoving it all in there. And I have the same criticism about, like, let's say a movie like AI, which could easily have made the list. I didn't personally put it in there because, well, AI has a bad ending.
Yeah.
It's like I wanted to talk about other things, but it's the same thing where it's sort of like, here's one more ending, here's one more ending. And they're getting increasingly disappointing. Well, in the case of AI, it's more disappointing. In the case of The Lord of the Rings, they're getting increasingly, how can I put it, more and more states in the U.S. are accepting that those endings get married.
I guess, yeah. You could say that.
I don't have a problem with that necessarily, except once it's unintentional, which in this case it is. It was just like, really now?
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know, it's like they did such a great job in the first movie to cut all the useless parts, or the part that wouldn't do well in the movie. Like, they cut Tom Bombadil because that part would just been completely stupid to see on screen. And they edited so well, so why didn't they do the same thing in the last one? Okay, all those endings were in the books. You still could have cut 3 of those and still have a nice, acceptable ending that, moviegoers would have enjoyed.
No, I agree. It's a big problem. And also, the other thing I don't like about it, you mentioned it's a big battle scene. For me, it's like the first one really worked for me because it captured, even though it's a bit grayish and sort of sinisterly, it's still within the Hobbit world and it's still kind of bright.
Yeah.
And then the second one still worked for me because that brightness was gone, and then you get a sense of like why Sauron is a threat and why he threatens that world. Because the world in the first movie was kind of bright and pleasant to live with, and this world in the second one, not so much.
Yeah.
By the third one, where it's completely a desert wasteland with just people running around beating the crap out of each other, I'm sort of like, well, I already know Sauron's bad, so I didn't really need to be reminded of that.
Yeah.
And now it's just monotonous. Like, I'm bored.
Yeah.
It's just too gray. It's like, bring me some color. And then, granted, while you approach the end, there's more and more color, and I actually think that's pretty clever about the ending. It's too late. I just lost interest.
Yeah, I can see that. So, what is your number 3, Dimitri?
My number 3 pick is a horror movie. You would have guessed.
Of course.
It's a horror movie. It's I Am Legend. The Will Smith movie, 2007, like the 40th adaptation of the book by Richard Matheson.
Okay.
It's Will Smith in the future. The world has been turned into vampires or zombie-ish vampires in this movie. I'm not entirely sure why.
Okay.
And I was into that movie, man. I really was. Like, it was just Will Smith and his dog, and he was kick-ass cool.
Nice.
And then the ending happens where out of nowhere, this person comes into his life, a woman, who says like, well, it's because you're not following the path of God, you're following the path of science, that's what you're doing wrong. And then he discovers faith at the last minute and commits a great sacrifice, and then, you know, that sacrifice leads to the world's redemption. And I'm like, where the hell did that come from? Like, why is that in the last 15 minutes? That is not the movie I watch. It's like, it's not that I have anything against faith movies. Well, actually, I do have something against faith movies. As an aside, people, here's why faith movies never work. Because it works on serendipity. Somebody believes something will happen because they have faith, and then their faith is rewarded because that thing happens. Here's why it doesn't work. Of course it happens, because it's in a fictional world where the writer can make it happen.
And if it didn't happen, it would make for a very disappointing ending.
Yeah, exactly. It's sort of like the faith movies goes like, and this is why God exists. Except that those characters live in a universe where God has proven himself. He's the writer. There's no effort in proving that. It's a Deus Ex Machina in a literal sense.
So back to I Am Legend. You're saying that the fate thing just happened at the end there. Like, did they even mention at the beginning something about fate or nothing?
No, not at all.
That's weird.
Well, the story behind it is that the director did not plan that ending at all. It was sort of the studio imposed it because it was right around, like, it's 2007. It's right around when the ultra religious right in America was starting to show its weight a little bit more and going like, we sort of exist too, which is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
But studios started getting like, oh, well, we need to pander to that audience too, so they shoved in God through left field. What's interesting, if you get the DVD, get the director's cut, which doesn't have any of that stuff, it still speaks about faith, it still touches on spirituality, just a little bit, but in a way that's actually organic to the story.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? I mean, the religious right should not even go to see a movie about vampires and zombies. I mean...
Well, not about the end of the world, anyway.
Exactly.
It's sort of like, if you're concerned about your religious ideals being misrepresented and you're Christian, the last movie you want to see is one where the apocalypse happens and it's not because of God.
Yeah. I guess, yeah. That's well put.
Alright, your number 2 pick for a good movie, bad ending.
Well, it's a movie I normally would not have gone to see, but, there was nothing else to see, so I gave it a shot. It's a really artsy movie, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, which is the story of a guy that's born really, really old. I mean, the baby comes out and he has, arthritis and cataracts and really, really problems, so he gets abandoned and, he's raised an orphan and he gets younger as time progresses. He grows a little bit because, he was a baby, but he starts as a really old man and he gets younger and younger. And at the same time, there's a little girl at the orphanage where he is, and she gets older because she's normal, and basically eventually meet at, when they're about the same age.
Right at the age where Brad Pitt is hot by sheer coincidence.
Exactly. But the beginning was so interesting. You could see, Brad Pitt acting like an old guy. Like, he was like a kid, but he still acted like a crazy old guy that was trying to be nice to the kids, to them. And then he gets a little younger, and he's able to get a job as a seaman. And then he meets a woman. He has an affair. It's all over the place, and it's super interesting. And then he goes to meet his future wife, and it just stops. It's like I'm watching a Lifetime movie now. This is nowhere as interesting as what was happening at the beginning. I mean, I hope it's going somewhere, and then it just ends like, no, it went absolutely nowhere.
Yeah, it's a movie that sort of stopped taking chances halfway into it. And yeah, it just gets really maudlin, and it is still a romance, and that just sort of bypasses the inherent, really problematic issues that should come with a romance with somebody that gets younger as you get older.
Yeah. Like,
really gross, weird issues that should come out of that.
Indeed.
And I understand I'm not necessarily wanting to, hey, here's some pedophilia for you. But at the same time, it's sort of like that's inherent to the premise. You sort of have to deal with it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, they dealt with like the courting, if you can say at the beginning, where, they were kind of young together and they were kind of playing together and hiding under tables. And I was like, yeah, that was kind of cute, It was like a little weird, but kind of cute. And they dealt with it perfectly fine. They could have done the same thing, at the reverse. But it's like, no, it just halted. And really, he does that? That doesn't make sense at all. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. No, I agree. It is a missed opportunity.
So what's your number 2?
My number 2 is a movie, another romance, if you will, called Catch and Release, 2006 movie with Jennifer Garner and Timothy Olyphant and Kevin Smith. Not directing, just acting in it. He's actually quite good.
Okay.
But the thing about it is, Catch and Release, interesting movie about a woman who loses her fiancé. He dies, goes to the funeral, sleeps with the guy's best friend, not because she's a whore or anything bad. No. It's just, she's grieving and she's doing crazy stuff, as people tend to do when they're grieving.
Yeah.
And the whole movie is about how when you're grieving, you do stuff that are not rational. And maybe people shouldn't judge you for that, because grieving is such a weird and complicated process. That's just what you go through, and maybe people should give you a carte blanche for dealing with these things.
Yeah.
The movie's called Catch and Release, which means, the idea of doing something and then putting it back.
Yeah.
So she has this affair with this guy, and then at the end, mild spoiler alert, she doesn't put it back. And it sort of ruins the entire movie.
But it's called Catch and Release.
I know.
Why is it called Catch and Release then?
I can't confirm this, but I suspect it's another case of the studio interfering and turning it into more of a standard romantic comedy, when really it was a movie about grieving.
So the whole movie, was it built in a way that you knew she was going to dump, and you were trying to see what she was going?
Yeah, they even have that moment where, she eventually breaks up with her new love interest, and it's built in such a way where it's sort of like she's getting healthy again, and she doesn't need him anymore, and the fact is, she doesn't want to be with him because it's kind of weird and creepy.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that.
And he gets angry at her for obvious reasons. And the way the movie is told, I fully expected it for her to come back and see him and going like, look, what I did, not okay. I'm really sorry. I used you that way. And he's going like, look, he was my best friend too, and I was really sad about it too. Look, it happened. Let's just forget about it. But instead, it turned into something else, and it was like, ah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a big fail.
It really is. All right, so what's your number 1 pick for good movie, bad ending?
And I'm sorry about that, because you're going to get a lot of hate mail, and somebody's going to, bomb your website. But Serenity is my number 1. Serenity as the ending of the Firefly series, I'm thinking. So it was a good movie, and you're thinking, it's going to resolve a bunch of issues. The issues that are actually addressed in the movie, okay, like the Reavers that you saw in the series. You see Reavers, they're there. What happens between Captain Mal and the companion, that I forgot her name. Then Book, you would think, he's in the movie, so they're going to explain something about him. And then there's this whole summer situation. What's up with her?
Yeah.
They explained the Reaver explanation, I have to say, I loved.
Me too.
That, they tried to calm a planet down, but the medication has a reverse effect on other people and got them crazy. It actually happens in real life. I watched too much CSI, but it's called the paradoxical effect.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that medication has the opposite effect
that
it's supposed to. I love the explanation. The romance was not... It just concludes like, hey, you want to be with me? He's like, yeah, sure. And it was like completely boring.
Yeah, and she's barely in the movie. Like, she never actually does anything significant in the movie. She's just sort of like,
Yeah, she has 5 lines, maybe. It's like completely ridiculous. Book, they just kill him off. No explanation about what he was. And Summer as a super weapon is like, really? That's where you're going? It has been done so often. It's so cliche. I can't believe you went that route. It was really disappointing.
Yeah, it was sort of, it felt a bit like a shortcut where there was probably more to the Summer story. Yeah. But they went like, okay, well, we need to conclude this in like 2 hours. What can we do that's really simple and we can just do in one scene because we got so much to do, you know what I mean? But the one thing that bugged me that you mentioned is Book, where they just went like, it's Joss Whedon does that a lot, and I think it's cheap. And like, if you think you're making people hate our podcast, like, hear me out. Joss Whedon does cheap stuff.
Oh God, we're gonna have to move.
Because he's smart enough to identify plot holes and problems when he's writing something or revising it or directing something. But he's apparently too lazy to try to fix them. So what he'll do is just sort of wink at the audience, go like, "Isn't that a plot hole?" Duh. And all the fans are going like, he's a plot hole. He's so clever. He's like me. I blog about plot hole. He makes plot holes. We're friends.
That's awesome.
And he gets away with it. And he did the same thing with Book, where he's like, "Oh yeah, sometimes you just never get the satisfactory story you want about certain mystery characters, and that's just the way life is." You're like, lazy.
Yeah. Extremely. If you're not going to use Book, and you're not going to tell his story, just don't put him in the movie. I know, super fans might have been disappointed, but he left the ship. Maybe next movie, Serenity 2, you do it about him. It's fine. But don't show him and then it's like, oh, now we're killing him without anything. It was very disappointing. I was expecting a lot more, having loved the series, and, that being the end, you're like, that's kind of lame.
I think it would have been better if they hadn't killed him off. Like, just leave the promise that one day they might find out.
Yeah. Fortunately, they killed him off because he could not sign the contract saying he was going to be in the sequels.
Oh, really? Is that why?
Yeah. So they killed him off. It's like, why not just not have him in the sequel instead of killing him off?
That would have been a better idea.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
Just kill everybody that can't agree to be in the sequel. It's like, that you don't have to do that.
Yeah, the number of characters that get killed is actually what bothers me about Serenity. Like, okay, keep in mind, people, I actually like Serenity a lot more than you do, Nick. So people, I'm criticizing Serenity. So actually, it's a movie that I quite enjoy and quite like, but that doesn't mean I can't be critical. And I find that they kill a lot of people for nothing. Like, there's one death in particular that I don't want to spoil because it really did catch me by surprise.
Yeah.
But I was like, F you, movie!
I know, like, where the hell did that come from? Why?
Yeah, I understand what you mean. I like the movie just the same, and I actually think it works better as a finale to the series than as an individual movie in which you have a bunch of characters that you don't know that do stuff.
Yeah, of course.
But I get where you're coming from, definitely.
No, I mean, it's still enjoyable. I'll still watch it, but you're really disappointed. It's like, okay, why are you introducing these things in the movie if you're not going to talk about them? It's ridiculous. So what is your number one?
My number one is another horror movie.
Oh. So another movie I didn't see. Okay.
It is called The Last Exorcism. It's a 2010 movie, found footage movie. You know those Blair Witch Project movies that we keep getting year after year after year in the last 5 years or so?
Yeah.
Since Paranormal Activity? Well, here's another one. Here's the thing. That one's completely edited. It's not like some doofus running around with a camera for no reason. It's fully edited, so it's a fake documentary more than a found footage movie.
Okay.
And what it is, it's the story of a preacher who does exorcisms. But he doesn't actually believe in exorcisms. He's the son of a preacher. He's been taught how to do it. He's always seen that as sort of his career path. But he doesn't really believe in it. He believes in God and all of that, and he believes in helping people. He likes the job of a preacher, but he doesn't believe in all that hocus pocus. He just doesn't. He's that sort of guy. But he does it because for him, it's a way to reach out to the people who do believe in that stuff in the small towns and whatnot, and get them real psychiatric help. But then he read up an article about how somebody performing an exorcism killed the kid that they were exercising because it was such a rough treatment and whatnot. Yeah. And it says, okay, I've been a charlatan all my life, and I thought I was doing good, but there's negative consequences to what I'm doing as well. So I'm going to invite a video crew, and I'm going to show them how what I'm doing is completely made up, and demonstrate to people how an exorcism really works and what kind of help I really can provide through that so that people know it's a sham.
Okay.
So he goes there for his last case, which of course tests his belief into exorcism or not. Now, without going into spoilers, the movie sort of reaches a natural ending where he solves the case and you discover whether or not it's real or not, that I won't spoil, and sort of goes home having accomplished what he accomplished. And then the studios weren't happy with that because he wasn't hoary enough as an ending. So they had him come back, and this I don't mind spoiling, they have him come back to the house of the case and then discover that he had been fooled all along by the entire village or a satanic cult.
Yeah.
And then he sort of disappears. They have the cliche ending where the person filming gets killed and dies, and the camera just lays there.
Wow. That could have been an interesting movie if they had stopped at the right time, but the ending seemed so tacked on.
Yeah, well, I got the movie.
Yeah.
Because I like everything about the movie. It's really, really good and compelling, and you really start to ask yourself, is this a real case? Is this not? It could go both ways, and it's sort of like when he's starting to doubt, you're with him. You're like, yeah, if I saw that too, I'd be like, oh, there's a logical explanation to this, but at the same time, it's pretty messed up, you know?
Yeah.
And I copied it on my computer, and I did a phantom edit of it where I just cut out the last 10 minutes, because the 10 minutes in question are awful.
Nice. Was that the director's idea, or did he,
Oh no, it really is a case that the producers because it's an independent film, as a lot of found footage movies are.
Okay.
They bought the movie after they saw it at a festival, and they reworked the ending because they wanted something more commercially appealing. But it's just it's stupid, and more to the point, it doesn't make an ounce of sense. Like,
okay.
Because suddenly, like, oh, we were this all along, and it's like, okay, why? There's no hint of it, and again, it leaves like that really big glaring question. It's like, well, if the cameraman just died all of a sudden, and you even have the footage of, the camera just lying on the side while everybody else is running around and celebrating his death and everything, who the hell edited together the movie?
Some Satanist that, I don't know, it makes no sense.
It's bad.
The guy that found the footage edited the movie.
Because, it's intercut with interviews, and all of that. It's like, it's not just one narrative with one guy holding camera. It's a fully fake documentary.
Wow, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
They're getting really lazy with those found footage movies that, you're not supposed to ask questions anymore about who edited it or how did they find it or stuff like that. It's just, it's found footage.
Yeah, and to a certain degree, I can accept it in certain types of movie, like Paranormal Activity 4, for example. It's one where you're like, you film your entire life? Yeah. Alright, I'll just go with it. I don't want to ask, As opposed to the first few Paranormal Activities where they keep finding a reason why the guy would continue filming even though it defies common sense,
Nice.
We're getting off track, but the first Paranormal Activity has one of the best scenes for that where he's playing with the camera and his wife suddenly is in the bathroom and suddenly screams in terror like someone's attacking. So he grabs the camera and runs to film it. You're like, that lady is grounds for divorce.
Yeah, filming your wife in the bathroom, yeah. Seriously.
While she's screaming because somebody's attacking her, no less.
Wow, that's crazy.
Next time we're going to talk about the bad movies with good endings, the redeeming endings. I think is going to be a bit less bitchy.
Yeah, I know. It's more positive. It's stuff we want to see again because the ending was so great.
If you want to post a comment about the movies that disappointed you in the final act, you're welcome to. You can write us at mail@idiomanic.com or post a comment right below the episode at idiomanic.com. Or you can post a comment on Facebook. We're also on Twitter. And we'll see you next time.
Toodles.